So new this school year is the new bell-to-bell cell phone policy. Basically, it's a ban of cell phones from bell to bell. You can't have a cell phone in the class out, you can't have it out in between class, you can't have it out at lunch. So we've heard from a lot of parents, there's some anxiety about this, but we wanted to bring in some teachers so we can fully understand exactly what this means, why it's needed, what they hope we get out of this. So joining me now is Becky Powell of North Rock Creek School and Bill Arbuckle, who teaches right now at Edmond Santa Fe. Thank you, both of you. So let's give everybody a little bit of background. Bill, I'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about your teaching, how long you've been teaching.
This will be year 34 for me teaching, and 25 of those have been in public schools in Edmond.
So you've seen your fair share
Yes.
of what goes on in a classroom.
Yep.
Okay, looking forward to hearing more about
Awesome.
that and your take on that. And then Becky, tell me a little bit about how long you've been teaching and what you've been doing.
This is my 17th year teaching, and I've taught a couple of different school districts, but I'm starting my 5th year at North Rock Creek High School this year.
Okay, and that's out of Shawnee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so thank you both for being with us and just telling us from your perspective on what you've seen in classrooms when it comes to cell phones, because boy, has cell phone use changed over the years. Am I right? You've really seen that change. Let's start by talking about it. Have you ever felt like you've been competing with a screen for the student's attention? Bill?
That would be 180 days out of 180 days. Every day you feel that way in some way. The students feel like they can have them out anytime, even though our district has had a policy in place for years. But it was said during instructional time it should be silent and invisible. Well, instructional time is kind of vague, so it's not bell to bell like it's going to be. So we hope the new law puts a little bite into the policy.
Okay, Becky, how about you? Have you ever felt like you've been competing with the kids and their screens?
I have. Since I've started at North Rock Creek, it's been much improved. Our district has had a significant policy. It's been bell to bell since before I started teaching there. And it's been a zero tolerance policy. And it's made the biggest change to my teaching career of anything that I've probably done, having no cell phones. When I've taught in other districts, they've had similar policies, but if you don't have all the teachers to buy in to the policy or all of the parents to buy into the policy, then they're still looking at their phones when we're trying to teach, and they're taking videos of inappropriate things or taking pictures of inappropriate interactions, and it's been a nightmare. And since I've changed districts, it's been their policy from the get-go, and it's part of the culture. And so the students and the parents, they all expect it when they go there. And so I haven't had an issue since I've been there.
That's interesting, because when we'll talk to you a little bit more as we go on, you can give us some insight as to what it's going to look like maybe for other districts as well and other teachers. So let's talk specifics. You kind of mentioned this, Bill. My question was going to be is how often did you see students on their phones? Every day? Every day I saw at least,
some students, I can't say how many, but some students every hour on their phones when they shouldn't be.
Are they just kind of pulling it out and just like peeking and putting it back? Or
well, and some are doing more than that. They're, let's just say they're getting unsolicited help.
Like with
cheating.
Test taking? Okay.
Cheating, test taking, it could be on their homework, it could be on anything. They just pull it out, and there's apps out there that'll do it for them.
Now, I think back to when I was in school, and if you wanted to try to cheat, you were going to be real sneaky about it. Are the kids real sneaky about these cell phones, or is it just blatant? Are they just out?
Sometimes it's blatant. Sometimes they're a little bit more sneaky, but when someone's on their phone, you can tell. You can tell. So
I think when I posted this online, somebody was saying that they had subbed for a class and they noticed everybody had their ear pod in, and they were taking a test and they were all answering the same question at the exact same time. The teacher found out that somebody was feeding them answers.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything quite like that?
They'll share a Google Doc, and they can share it with any number of people, and answers will be on that Google Doc, and they just look at that, and then they don't even have to be on their phone. They can be on their Chromebook.
What's your concern as a teacher when you see something like that happen?
Well, they're not learning. They're not learning to think for themselves. I tell students all the time, I'm not here to teach you numbers or X's and Y's. I'm here to help you learn how you learn best. And they can't do that if they have some app or AI generating their answers. And you can't trust all of those answers. Many times I've found answers incorrect that I know that they used some help. Let's just say that.
That's where they got it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about what kind of things that they've been doing on their phones besides learning. Can you give us some examples?
Oh, well, cheating for one. They text each other during class, or they bully each other during class. They pick one thing to highlight in their group chats. They'll have several of them going on in their group chats all at the same time. It's been a while since I've dealt with en masse cell phones in the classroom, but those are some of the things that we used to see when I had that all the time. Now it's very rare for me to have a student with a cell phone in class now.
Yeah, how about you, Bill?
Students will, well, we've addressed the cheating part, but they'll also just group chat together and, we're going to meet up in the bathroom, and then they're going to do whatever. That could be anything from fighting to drugs to you name it. But they coordinate when they're going to meet. A boyfriend and girlfriend can coordinate when they want to meet up in between classes, during class, not in between.
Yeah, it seems like it's so much bigger than what I think a lot of people think about with the cell phone. It's not just mom trying to get in touch with their kid.
Exactly.
There's a lot more communication going on. And when I posted this, I heard several teachers talk about the bullying aspect, that's become a problem when kids have their cell phones out in school.
Yeah. They are more inclined to say some very derogatory, cut down type things when they're hidden behind their screen. They wouldn't hardly ever say it face to face, but they'll say it on a screen. And it's very hurtful.
The barrier emboldens them to say things we would never think to say to another human being. And it has separated them from the humanity of other people. And they've said some really hurtful things.
I bet. I mean, because you just see that just in our everyday world, that people sometimes hide behind that. But then when you have kids who are just learning how to deal with those types of comments, that's really unfair that gets put out there for them. Okay, so let's talk about any other specifics that you guys can talk about when it comes to an example of a time where the cell phone has disrupted class or disrupted a student's focus.
Well, we were talking earlier about the Amber Alert goes off and you have 15 phones in the room with that Amber Alert going. If they were turned off and in their locker or in their book bag or whatever, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
But it totally disrupts the flow of the class.
Just stops it right there.
I had an experience at a different district where a middle school student, received horrendous news from an adult in their life during my class by text message. And the child was devastated, couldn't go to their next class. I cleared my classroom and we talked it out, and I involved our counselor. And then the next day we found out that it wasn't even true. And it was awful. That is my poster child. No child needs a cell phone in class.
So they shouldn't get that information there. Have them go to the office and have somebody who's trained with giving that information.
Yes.
Right there. What do you say, and I'm just going to kind of jump ahead because that brought up this thought in my head, because some parents are saying, well, what if there's an emergency and we want to get in touch with our student right then? How we want them to be able to see it. Well, how do you feel about that from a teacher's perspective?
In our district, there's a phone in every classroom, and the adults all have cell phones accessible, but we have phones in our classrooms, and they can contact our office, and our office can call into our classroom. I've had students call their parents from my classroom. So the communication is available. It's there, it's accessible.
That's what I was going to say. Our district has a great communications to get things out. They have means of doing that. And to say that I need to get in touch with my particular student at that time, I think a lot of times it's coming from the administrators, the people in charge, those professionals, like you were saying, information can be conveyed in a much better way.
Well, let's talk about this new policy, the bell-to-bell ban of cell phones. Bill, let's start with you. Your reaction when you heard that this was going to be policy.
I thought it was sad that we had to have a law, but at the same time, our policy, the way it was working, wasn't working. A lot of the responsibility was on the teacher. The teacher was asked to take the phone from the student. That's a teacher then accepting a lot of responsibility for that device. And there have been times where students would accuse the teacher of breaking their screen or breaking their phone or whatever. So I, last year, went to a different policy for my own room. And if I saw a phone out, I would just come next to them and open up a brown paper bag, lunch sack. Can you put your phone in here, please? Crumple it up. And I let them know at the beginning of the year, if you open that up before I tell you, it's outright defiance. And then we go to the administration on that as well as the phone. And they hate having that bag on their desk. And I don't ask them to turn it off because I really hope that it's going to buzz and they can't get in that bag.
It'll prove the point,
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
And your initial reaction?
The same. It's sad that we had to have a law, but also it was about time that our community and our legislative community has been supportive of this change, because the cell phones, they've always been in the classroom. The story that I shared about the student that I had, that was my first year of teaching in 2004. So they've been there for a long time. They've just expanded in their intrusiveness into the classroom. Before they were, the old phones, the non-smartphones. So they had the old texting where you had to actually know the numbers and the letters, and so they were those. But now they have access to the whole world in their pocket during class time, and so I thought it was about time.
Initially, I was thinking that it was going to put more on a teacher when it comes to enforcement, but from what I'm hearing from you, Bill, it actually makes it a little bit easier on you as a teacher when it comes to enforcement, because you're not the bad guy, if you will.
We're still the bad guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because really, for a student to get caught, it has to be the teacher that catches them.
Okay.
So we're still the enforcement of this policy. I mean, although there are written consequences in our district policy and everything, until you have all teachers and all parents all on board, 100%, there's going to be a crack in that policy somewhere.
So are you hoping this gets everybody on the same page?
Exactly.
Do you think it will change behavior of the kids not being able to have their cell phones out?
There's going to be friction. There's going to be pushback. But I think once they see that they're going to be able to do things in class that they haven't been able to do, I think it'll be a good thing. And they'll see that it's a good thing. But it'll take some time. Change is always tough.
Becky, when you went to the school district you're at, had they already had that policy in place?
Yes, that policy has been part of their culture from the beginning. As far as I know, it's been that policy for quite some time.
So do you see kids trying to sneak out their cell phones?
There are a few. Every year there are a few. And the first couple of weeks of school, even the ones who've been in the district since pre-K, there are still some of the ones who will try, or they'll come to class. I have students weekly. Oh my goodness, Ms. Powell, I came to my class. I forgot I have my phone in my pocket. Can I go to my locker and take it back? Absolutely. Please do. As long as you're remembering and asking permission, please take it, do what you need to do. But for the most part, it is just part of the culture of our school. Their phones are supposed to be turned off and in their lockers from bell to bell, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 3:05 in the afternoon.
So you think it's just going to change the culture at other schools too?
I think so.
Yeah.
Coming from both sides of the coin, where it was the official policy but didn't have buy-in from everyone, to a school where it's just part of the culture, it's the expectation. And I think from our lawmakers to our administrators to our classroom teachers, we have to set the expectation. And once we set the expectation, then our kids and our families will rise to meet it.
So Becky, what's the policy at your school when it comes to no cell phones?
There's zero tolerance on cell phones and communication devices, watches, they can't have AirPods. If they use earbuds, they have to be wired to their Chromebook so that we see what they're doing. But it's zero tolerance. The first offense is PASS, which is positive alternative to student suspension. So it's like in-school suspension, but the first offense is PASS. So for 1 day.
So I was thinking, okay, a lot of kids now have the smartwatches. So do they actually have to take them off?
Yeah, they're not supposed. It's harder
Yeah.
to enforce because it's harder to see sometimes. Sometimes if I'm not sure, I overlook it because I can't really tell, and I would rather continue teaching. And if I don't see them, check in their watch every 30 seconds, then I feel like it's a safer assumption that it's not a smartwatch than to deal with the conflict of trying to figure out, is it a smartwatch, and then going forward with the next steps. But
so are they supposed to keep everything in their backpack, or do you have special lockers for these phones?
they're provided lockers in our district that have locks on them, and we have an amazing surveillance cameras in our hallways, so they can see every locker at
That's where
any
they
given
go.
time. They're supposed to be in their locker at all times.
Bill, have you been given any direction on how that new policy is going to work for your school yet?
They've given the steps of consequences, and our second or third consequence is their first. So we're a little bit more lenient, I would say. I would love for them to be assigned their lockers and have them put their phones in their lockers, because right now the lockers are not being used. Since COVID, lockers haven't been used, and they just put everything in their backpack. So I'm assuming that they're wanting everybody to put their turned off device or devices into their backpacks.
Yeah, we talked to the Middale superintendent, and that's what the understanding is. And then if it comes out, then they have a special place for them in the office. Have you heard anything like that yet on
Well,
what would happen
if they
with
get
consequences?
If they get caught with them, then we are to ask them to take it to the office. It's going to be a break in the action in your classroom, because you're going to ask them to go, but then they have to know that they're coming. So you have to make a call or intercom or something to notify the office that that student is bringing their device down to the office.
So what would your message to parents be?
Have your student understand that it's a law, that it's for their own good, and that if they get caught, then there would not only be the consequences that the school imposes, but maybe consequences at home as well.
And Becky, any message that you would share with parents in regards to this?
I would say the same. Their dependence on their device starts at home, and I know I have 2 children at home. I have an 11-year-old and I have a 17-year-old, and they didn't get devices. My 16-year-old, our house doesn't get their own device until they're 16, and she doesn't have social media, so she doesn't have the same addiction. And I will call it addiction because I have it. I have a device that I use, and that's pretty much the way it's been categorized. But the support starts at home. Teach your children that there are times when device use is not appropriate, and it's not effective, and it's counterproductive.
So that's good. It's an interesting perspective too from a parent of kids who have devices right now, at least one of them. Do you think that this will help improve academics in class? Do you think this will have any impact? I mean, obviously it's going to cut down on disruptions, hopefully, but when it comes to actually academics, do you think this will impact those at all?
It'll impact the assignments or projects that you do in class, because the students will have to do that on their own. So they'll be learning during that time. But I do think that you have to assume that they're going to be getting help if you assign it as homework to be done at home. So I try and have them do as much in class as they can. And that will hopefully, they'll have more time them doing it.
Actually to learn,
Yeah,
opposed to using the resources online
Exactly.
nowadays, which is a whole other issue.
right.
It's a whole other story. And any other thing that you'd like to add, Becky, in terms of this new law and how you've seen it work right now in your school?
I've seen it be very successful in our school, and I just hope that all of the other districts can find that same success, and that it just builds as part of the culture in other schools, and it becomes part of the culture in our state, that students are expected to be at school to learn and not to be on their devices, and to be actively engaged. I heard a teacher one time say that they tell their students to be where their feet are. And so, your feet are here in my classroom, I want you to be here with me. And I thought that was so appropriate, because there's so many different places when they have anything else they can be looking at.
I've heard the argument that, well, we do group work in class, and we do, peer tutorings and things like that. That's true, but there's a give and take. You get to input, and I get to input into that conversation. Whereas if you're just going to an app, you're just trusting that it's going to be the correct answer. You don't have any input, you don't have any thought process in that. I'm really hoping that the culture changes, that while you're in school, you're there for school. Mm-hmm. I do think somewhere, and since we have a law that says it can't happen at school, then it must happen at home, is teaching appropriate use of your devices. Mm-hmm. When is it appropriate? When is it not appropriate? Those kinds of things. So it's going to have to happen at home.
So would that be maybe some advice to parents? Because I know a lot of parents are going to watch this interview. Is that's something that we need to take on, that responsibility?
I think every job, every career has moments where they cannot be on their device. And parents need to share that with their student, that I'm not allowed to use it every moment of every day. I have to put it away. And so if they share that with their student, I think that'll drive it home.
Open up that conversation, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. I second everything that you just said. There's needs to be an open conversation at home with parents and the students to determine when it's productive, when it's counterproductive. It's like I said, they have computers in their pockets that give them access to the whole entire world, and they need to understand it comes with a great responsibility to use it wisely, and not to use it to think for them, but to give them access to the information that they can then manipulate and use it in the most effective way.
Have you ever, Becky, had any student be really defiant?
Not with cell phones.
Okay.
Not with their cell phone. Not in our current district that I'm in right now. I haven't had. They know. I've seen. We've said the poorly timed Amber Alerts in my first 3 days teaching at North Rock Creek. There was an Amber Alert, and I saw the heads drop. There were 3 of them in that class, and said, "Okay, you know, so I don't have to tell you." So they took their own devices. They took them to the office, but when something like that happens, they know.
Yeah.
So there's no question. So
You can't hide it.
no.
Becky, do you worry about not being able to communicate with your child if they have their cell phone put away in school, your high schooler?
No, in fact, my policy for my students' cell phone, since we're at the same site, she only takes it with her when she drives to school. And then when she does take it with her when she drives to school, she leaves it in the car. So she didn't even take it into the school. because I have access to her. But I do have an 11-year-old in the same district, but our campus is K through 12. So pre-K through 12. So,
you don't
we're all on
have to
we are all on the same campus. I walk my younger one across the parking lot every day. It's a half-mile round trip walk every day, and so I have access to her almost as easily as I have access to my older one.
Do you think the hard part is going to be not necessarily in class, but during lunchtime, in between? Because this policy is bell to bell.
Right.
I mean, how do you enforce that? Are you going to have 100 kids going to the bathroom in between classes just so they can check their cell phone?
You might.
I think so. I mean, I think in the transition, that's potentially going to be an issue.
Does that happen just in your school?
Well, no, because it's part of our culture. They expect that they're not. It is a rare treat for our administration to say, there's special events happening, we're dismissing early, you can have your cell phones.
Okay.
So it's a treat if they do that, and you can tell that they've all had them put away because there's a mass exodus for the lockers. So
they keep theirs in the locker.
Yeah, they keep it in the locker.
I know there are a lot of schools where they're not using the lockers,
Right.
and so they're in their backpacks. So I'm imagining trying to enforce it in the in-between time is going to be a little bit tougher.
It is. I mean, but if you have everybody buying in and everybody on the same page, all the teachers doing the same thing, when you see a cell phone, you have them take it to the office. The whole off time, we'll call it, has been the issue with the policy that we had before, because it said it shouldn't be during instructional time. Kids think that instructional time is only when the teacher's up in front of the class. So as soon as the teacher is done, then they're free to do what they want. That's where there's a big difference between our old policy and the new law.
it's going to take commitment.
What type of problems, though, could happen with the kids when I get when they're in class, because they're not paying attention, they're not learning,
Right.
but why is it really a problem from a teacher's perspective or administration perspective for them to have their phones at lunchtime or in between classes? Like, are there some problems that you all have seen come up when the kids have had their phones during those in-between times?
I think we've all seen the videos of the fights at school, and instead of kids trying to do something to stop the fight, they're all concerned about getting the best shot on their video, so they can share it on. And so not only do they just record it, but then they share it on social media, or they capture somebody in an embarrassing moment and then they share it on social media. And so those are the things that happen in the outside of class times that will be. I haven't seen it, in our district, but it could happen.
If there's something to be said about zero tolerance. If you have it bell to bell, end of the day, start of the day to the end of the day, there's no chance of it being out in an inappropriate time. I liken it to, we don't have designated smoking areas a lot of places anymore. It's zero tolerance, no smoking. Well, what if I just step over here? It's not bothering anybody. It's the same idea. It's a zero tolerance.
I've heard from some parents, too, who've gone in to volunteer at lunchtime, and they were telling me that the kids, instead of talking, they're all on their phones.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this will help with that as well, just the art of communication.
I've noticed with my own children, my husband and I have this conversation frequently about their inability to communicate effectively verbally. And we say all the time, it's because they're texting all the time and they're not communicating. And for the longest time, we have a cell phone that is our home phone. And then my 16-year-old has a cell phone, but she didn't have it until she was 16. So she's had to communicate verbally with her friends. She had to talk to them, and if she didn't talk to them, she wasn't communicating with them. So they're a little bit different, but we still talk all the time about how ineffective they are at conveying basic information to each other. So I hope that this will put some of that back on our kids to be able to learn how to communicate effectively.
Thank you both for being with us. If you'd like to read more on the bell-to-bell cell phone ban, we are compiling a list of all the metro school districts and their specific policies. You can find those on news9.com.